The goal is always to be better, not perfect. Every column that you add, I say it really starts with two things. If you have a legitimate hypothesis about the data, how the data matters to you, and you have the ability to act on it, then it's a fine data set to bring in. I say this because oftentimes I work with companies where they say the starting point is to get all of our data together, everything that we have, and clean everything up. And I say, no, I say, give me the data you have available and just tell me that if I see something different, do you have a course of action that you can take in your business to adjust? And so that's where companies start is not even the data at all, but is to sit there with almost a blank sheet of paper and to say, what do you think leads to great relationships in your business? What data would you use to prove that? And then that's what you bring in and you test.
I love that opening question. Like, you start with a hypothesis. You're looking for some kind of pattern. Like, we love these kinds of customers. What is common about them? We don't have to have all the data points. Just get going. It can change. It can evolve. You can add more data points until you can start to see some kind of pattern.
You know what I tell people, this is my favorite one, is of a camper in a forest and a bear's chasing you. Well, what are you going to do to get away from the bear? And you can't run faster than the bear. And then you realize the problem is you're simply running faster than other campers. That's the solution. And I'm surprised as to how many companies, how many entrepreneurs, when they're confronted with the problem, it's like, all right, a bear is chasing you. And they're like, all right, shit, okay. We need to sit here and think about what's the strategy for outrunning the bear. And then they sit there for 8, 12, 16 months. They're like, we need to collect more data to solve this problem. There's too many companies that are sitting there being like, we want to be deliberate and think about this. It's like, no, move faster than the other campers and you win. My world is online advertising. Online advertising, as you know, is an auction. You win by having better information, being able to make better decisions than your competitors. You don't win by having perfect information. You just need to be slightly better. And when you break this down and you say, look, really all we're doing is going one step at a time, saying, who are these valuable people? And then one hypothesis of the next. What makes them different? The products they buy, how they engage. It allows you to make a slightly better decision very quickly.
Can you share an example or two of when somebody starts to look at their data, figures out who their best customers are, who they want to work with, and looking at the data, they discover something, and then what they do with that discovery so that they can increase the value of the relationship, the length of the relationship, and ultimately build the best customer for them?
I have worked with a number of companies where they're convinced and they're like, our mobile app is what's driving deeper loyalty and engagement. And you look at the data and you say, no, these people are spending the same as non-mobile app users. And then they've been able to go into their app and to say, well, what exactly is the strategy of your application? Travel is a great case. A couple of years ago, there were a number of travel apps where the entire focus was getting you to book again. They weren't talking about loyalty programs. They didn't have any value-added services, especially hotels didn't have digital key cards. It was all you book or you don't. And it was just a choice. Well, this app allows me to book faster. And they were pretty surprised when lifetime value was the same. Nobody was really bidding. And now you give them this lens and you say, no, if you add this loyalty program information, people aren't bidding again. But it's bringing him back.
You just reminded me of a conversation that I have with my chief operating officer. His name is Ben, and he'll come up with some hypothesis based on the data he's seen. And this is where it gets real interesting with us, because the data is the data, but the human interpreting the data creates a narrative that supports the strategy that they want to take. And I look at the data and said, I have a completely different conclusion based on the exact same data set you just told me right now. So now when data turns into humans to interpret and then to make educated guesses, how do we know what path to go? Or do we do both paths? Do you have any kind of advice for people who look at the data and start to form their own narrative?
Let's say I gather everybody from your side. We're all sitting in a room and I say, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you an opportunity. And let's say it's a market growth opportunity or a new product you could launch. And what I'll do just for fun to get things started off is I'll give you the overview of the opportunity. So imagine I'll slide across the table a sheet of bullet points, 5 or 6, and here's the opportunity, here's the market size, here's what we may price it, here's how we build it. And I'm going to just ask you, Chris, I'm like, what do you think? And we do this across a couple hundred people. We're going to get some people that look at the opportunity and just say, look, I love this. And other people that look at this say, I'm staying away from this. And generally what everyone will say is, look, we have disagreements here. We don't have a conclusion. What we need is more data, right? We need to understand this. Is this a real opportunity or not? And that's fair enough. I'm a data guy. I can empathize with people like that. So over the next 2 months, I'm going to send you more and more data. But this is an experiment and I love to play around with things. So if you were on that side where you said you love this new product, you think it's awesome, I'm going to just give you a whole bunch of data that tells you why it's garbage. And if you think that the opportunity is terrible, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of data to say this is an opportunity you can't miss out on. And then we're going to get back together after 2 months and I'm going to say, how do you feel about this opportunity now? Nearly everyone will keep their original decision. The only thing that changes is that most people will feel more confident with their original decision because they had time to look at that data. When people come to me and they say, the solution is more data and more analysis, I look at it and I say, is it really? Is that really going to change your point of view? And here's where the answer a little comes into to it is that, these researchers were looking at this experiment. They said, what could we do to actually change somebody's point of view? It was simply reminding people when they went into the problem that we are biased towards our initial impressions, even if they're not publicly declared. And we have a very difficult time processing new information. That simple awareness, I wasn't giving you advanced techniques and, well, we're going to do meditation in between. No, just this is what it is, made people more open-minded and willing to accept new information and new data. And when they did that simple disclaimer, I think it was then after that point, a majority of people changed their decision to match what the data showed them.